Hi there. So there's a story about basically I want to talk about this story on Congo. And it's a story that basically pertains what is happening in the North Kivu province, where we have about 6 million people displaced in the refugee camps there. They've been displaced from their own homes by this group that is made up of mostly Rwandan troops. And according to the UN Security Council, there's more than probably 4,000 Rwandan troops fighting in Congo and calling themselves the M23 rebels. Now, the story I'm trying to tell you is that about 4 or 5 days ago, the US issued what they call sanctions on the coalition of armed groups in DRC. And in that statement, they talked about this group called the Congo River Alliance, also known by its French name, Alliance Fleuve Congo. Now, this group came out or was formed about a year ago in Nairobi, Kenya. And it's the group that has actually created a kind of tension between Congo and Nairobi, or the Kenyan government. But now, what happened is that this man you are seeing in the picture, his name is Corneille Nangaa. He's the former chief of the Electoral Commission in Congo. He's also one of the point man of the former president of Congo, Joseph Kabila. So what he did was that he went to Nairobi and met with this M23. And what happened was that they formed an alliance, which is now they called the Congo River Alliance. And that's what is being sanctioned. And it's not just that group. The US also sanctioned what they are calling on their website. Now, you need to take note. This is not me saying it. This is a US Department of State. It's the state.gov, state.government. It's the US government, their state government. And they are saying here, let me try to zoom in, because some people from Rwanda who are paid by their government to always try to comment, trying to oppose things on facts on the internet will come in the next few minutes. So this is not me, and the website is the US government. And they are saying the AFC, this group was sanctioned, and its affiliates, you know what it means, affiliates, the other groups are in its basically coalition, including the US and UN designated Rwanda-backed M23 group. So now, the US already now officially recognized this M23 as Rwandan-backed. Now, last month we saw the UN gave out a report. The UN Security Council released or published a report that actually proved that this M23 is not just Rwandan-backed, but it has about between 4,000 to 5,000 Rwandan troops that fight inside the M23. So the UN Security Council had evidence to prove that Rwanda not only supports this group, but it sends its troops to fight in that group. So, in other words, the M23, we don't know the percentage, but maybe 60% of the M23 fighters are actually Rwandan troops. And even the US agrees to that. And what they've done in the Kivu province, the North Kivu, they've killed a lot of people. And that's why they're being now basically sanctioned. And what these sanctions mean, because after this statement was issued by the State Department, then that same hour, the State of Treasury in the US, as you can see, treasury.government, which is the State Department, it's like the finance department of the US, issued another statement, a different version of it, now being so specific, saying Treasury sanctions the rebel alliance driving instability in the DRC. And when you read it, they are very specific with the details. It's unlike the one that State Department issued. So if you read this one, they mention even the names of the people who are supposed to be sanctioned. So they said in the M23, they are going to be sanctioning Bertrand Bisimwa, and they also gave a long list of other people like Makenga, General Makenga, and other people in the M23. And then including Corneille Yoberuo Nangaa. This is now the guy who is the former, they're even saying it, is the former president of the CENI, which is the Congolese Electoral Commission. It's called CENI, Congo Electoral National, whatever. I think that's what it means. He's also the figure that they say delayed Congo's 2016 elections, kept joking around with the election, and when he got out, he started opposing the government, and so on and so on. So they have a very long story about how dangerous he is. And then they go ahead to talk about the M23, which they say is the Rwandan-backed rebel group that has kind of seized huge chunks of land next to the border with Rwanda. And we know these are Rwandan troops that are doing that. Then they've killed a lot of people, and so on and so on. Then they're accusing them of killing people, maiming people, sexual violence, abduction, which is what they are doing there. And then they are saying that the M23 reemerged in the late 2023 with the help of the Rwanda Defense Forces. So the US knows that. And then they're saying the intention of this M23 is to capture a town called Rubaya, which is a town at the center of the expansive mining area for coltan. So the US knows that the intention of the M23 is not to defend the Tutsi people, as Paul Kagame says, but they know it's about the coltan. And they think it's a key material in the production of electronic devices. The security crisis created by this M23 has displaced around 1.5 million people, according to the International Organization for Migration. And they're also going ahead to say they've killed more than 20,000 people. Look, the story is long. You can go to this website and read. What they are trying to say is this, that if you are, basically when the Treasury issues the same sanction, they are sending a message to finance entities like banks and financial systems to stay away from the sanctioned entities. In other words, they are saying this. You know, most banking system in the world use American kind of SWIFT system. The SWIFT is like a bank-to-bank messaging system. So most big banks in the world use that to transfer electronic money. But you can be kicked out of that system forever. You can be banned from the system if you help sanctioned entities to use your bank. So in other words, for example, a big bank in Africa would be ABSA. ABSA, or Equity Bank from Kenya, is very popular in Congo. But they use SWIFT system to do their transfers. If these Corneille Nangaa or these M23 leaders and their families, because they've gone ahead to say they've sanctioned their families too, ever does transaction on equity system or equity bank system or the ABSA bank system, ABSA could be sanctioned as well or fined by the US Department of Defense, rather State Department. Mostly they sanctioned banks with very heavy fines. So banks don't want to mess around with these people. So they are going to freeze the accounts that Corneille Nangaa has if they have accounts with them. Now, the State Department, when they issue their own sanctions, is basically to do with the airports. And how it works is that most airports in the world are categorized depending on the level of security. And the higher you are in the security category, it means you are using an American software for passport scanning. That's what it means. So every time you go through an airport and your passport is scanned, this software, which is American owned and is controlled from there, it sees you. Even though a copy is seen by your immigration where you are, but actually the Americans are able to see you. So they came up with this system after what happened in 2003, September 11. And, you know, because of terrorism and drug trafficking, they do that all the time. So when they sanction you, this is like a red alert or a red flag on your passport. So if you go through certain countries, you are seen where you are. And this brings us to another story. The moment the sanctions came in effect, Congo, Kinshasa, immediately started a case in their high court after these sanctions now. So because now it has given them a right to charge these people. So Nangaa, the Colonel Nangaa, and 24 other people, including Colonel Nangaa's wife, brother. I saw a longer list where even his elder son is part of the people being charged. They're being charged for war crimes, participating in insurrection movement, and treason. Now, Colonel Nangaa is committing treason working with Rwandan troops that are invading Congo. But his wife meets him in Kenya and Dubai, and when she goes back home to Congo, she doesn't reveal to the authorities that she has seen him because he's someone who is wanted. In other words, this is a simple thing. If you have a brother or a husband or a son who has committed murder and he's hiding, and somehow you're going to where he's hiding to meet him, and you're not coming back to report to the police that you've seen him or you've been with him, if they ever find out, you become an accomplice. As a matter of fact, they can even say that you are working together. You are the planner and he's the murderer. So they there's a way they can put you on that case and you'll be jailed the same way. So that's what is going to happen to Colonel Nangaa's wife, his brother who meets him now and then in Dubai, and his children who also meet him, and they're adults. They are of over 18 years. So the case in Congo is expected to hand the death penalty to these people, which means the outcome is already known. And once they issue this death penalty to Colonel Nangaa and the group, the next stage is to issue arrest warrants. Now, arrest warrants are issued through Interpol, which Congo is a member. And it is the obligation and legal requirement of every country that has any kind of bilateral agreement with the US and Congo to basically arrest these people upon them transiting their airports or landing in those countries, put them on a plane and send them back to Kinshasa, where they're going to be jailed upon that case. So, and one countries I know Colonel Nangaa will never step foot in are those countries in SADC, because this is a trade bloc that Congo belongs to. We have South Africa, Angola, Malawi, Zambia, Tanzania, all those countries, including Mauritius and Seychelles. Those islands of the African coast are also part of SADC. So if Colonel Nangaa ever finds himself in Seychelles or Mauritius or Madagascar or Mozambique or Malawi, these countries are likely to arrest him on the spot at the airport, put him on a plane and send him to Kinshasa. If his wife ever does that, the same thing will happen. Now, what is left is whether the East African community will do the same if he is ever seen in Nairobi, which is bringing us to this story here. You can go and look it up. Is that because of this treason trial, the Kenyan government is being watched, because once the case in Congo says he's wanted for treason, it's upon the Kenyan government to arrest him, because that's where he is at the moment. It's upon to Dubai, UAE, to also arrest him and send him to Congo. UAE is currently supplying weapons and these vehicles to Congo. They are working with the Congo on defense, because Congo has allowed UAE, Dubai, the Emiratis, to do some coltan, I think not coltan, but cobalt mining. So, and gold mining in Congo. So they are kind of working on a friendly terms. So if he ever transits through Dubai, he's going to go to Kinshasa straight away. That is the situation. And it means then there are some steps being made by Congo when it comes to what M23 is doing. Now, finally, as I end this video, there's something I want to talk about. The other part I never mentioned in this, it's the sanctions. There was a group called Twirwaneho. This one, the leader of Twirwaneho is called Charles Sematama. He's the commander of this Twirwaneho, which is basically the version of M23 in South Kivu. It's made up of Tutsi fighters. Most of them are Rwandan troops, actually. They kill Bantu people in the south of Kivu. You can go and look it up. Then they are also sanctioned. The whole group was sanctioned and the commanders, including Sematama. There was also another commander in the longer list I watched. I think it's here. His name is something Makanika, but he has a name. But they call him Makanika, the nickname they gave him in that group. And basically what it means is simple. There are some Tutsi people from Congo, others from Rwanda, who got relocated through the refugee kind of program, claiming that they come from Congo and that they are under threat and so on and so on. So they got relocated to 30 countries, to the US, to Canada, to Australia. And these people have been living in those countries. They've been working. They've been, refugees do that in those countries. And they kind of crowdfund. They put money together in one account with one person appointed to be a treasurer. They put money together. Last time they had put $3 million together. And then they sent this money to this group of Twirwaneho. Last time the 3 million I'm talking about was intercepted by FBI. That's how I know about it, because it was in the papers. Now, they sent $3 million to this group to buy guns, buy ammunition, pay the fighters, and even recruit more Tutsi fighters, so that they can continue attacking the Bantu people. So the sanction means that now if the US has evidence that any of those people who are refugees has participated in crowdfunding for this banned, sanctioned group, they could lose their refugee status. That's what it means. I hope they are going to read or watch this video. Be careful what you are doing there, working and crowdfunding to send money to the people who are creating wars in Africa. Otherwise, how did you end up refugees if it wasn't because of the wars you are creating? You can't continue adding fuel to the fire. Your people are the ones attacking innocent Congolese people, and then you are claiming that you are refugees, you are the victims. And then once you go to those countries as refugees, you are crowdfunding more money to continue creating more refugees. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But what I want to tell you is that if they catch you crowdfunding to arm this sanctioned group, you are going to lose your refugee status. And if you think that's a joke, ask the Somalis who are in the UK, and they were found to have been sending money to Al-Shabaab controlled regions of Somalia. Ask them what happened. They lost their refugee status. They were put on planes and sent back. They went to, of course, to Mogadishu, never lived there for long. They moved to Nairobi, Kenya. They are in Nairobi, Kenya, because you can't stay in Mogadishu. There's no internet, there's no water, there's so many things that if you have been living in Europe and you are asked to go to stay in Mogadishu, you can't survive there. You have to go to the nearest Europe, which has internet. It has services like banking system, which is Kenya. Kenya is not as good as Europe, but it's better than what they would be living under in Mogadishu. So they were relocated. That's the point. I know so many of them that were relocated for basically these kind of activities. You lose your refugee status once you start participating in basically fundraising and arming terrorists.